Right. Teddy Atlas tells Andre Ward, Terence Crawford directly to their face, you are not pound for pound number one. Okay, I want to address that. Now, I also want to talk about my video I made about Terence Crawford and the Julius Ndongo fight. What I said in that video, and I'm going to elaborate a little bit on that because apparently there's a lot of people coming out of the woodwork attacking me for that, and we'll get into that in a minute. But first, here's his pound for pound. He's got Lomachenko at number one. Andre Ward, number two. Okay, Terence Crawford, three. As you see, Thurman, four. Earl Spence, number five. Now, someone pointed out in the comments section that Spence, like he has like the Jamaican flag next to him. Is that accurate? Shouldn't that be an American flag? I mean, Spence is like, he lives in Dallas, Texas, my hometown, or, my family's hometown. I'm in Houston. But anyway, okay, now I don't agree. Loma is number one. Okay, and he's got a lot to prove. Now I get it. With his resume, you have quality over quantity. I get that. Most pro fighters, they pad their resume with 20, 30 fights, and then they get into the top tens and they get into that quality. But Lomachenko jumped right into the lion's den, right? He jumped right in there with Mariaga, Sosa, Walters, Martinez, Gary Russell Jr. He jumped right into top level opposition, the best in the division, the top 10. That's why people make the argument that he is pound for pound number one. But I think right now, I think he needs to move up. He needs to get away from 130, move up. Maybe beat a Mikey Garcia, something like that. Maybe a Rigo, which I told you guys I'm not very interested in that fight. I think Rigo's too small, but he needs to do a little bit more in my mind to be considered number one pound for pound. Now he's up there, two, three, four, somewhere, and I will reveal my pound for pound list at the end of September because I'll tell you guys right now, if Gennady Golovkin beats Canelo, he's number one, hands down. I mean, hands. Look, what is pound for pound? Resume, dominance, and skill set, right? As they call it, the RDS, right? Resume, skill set, and or resume, dominance, and skill set, right? So if you look at that resume, beat nothing but top tens. One tick away from becoming the undisputed middleweight champion. Okay, after he beats Canelo, and you look at Canelo's resume, the Canelo fans like to make the argument, well, look at his resume. You got Shane Mosley, Cotto, you got all these big names on there, right? I'm going to keep it short. You know his whole resume, right? So, but if he beats him, you know, use triangle theory, technically that means Gennady Golovkin can beat anyone that Canelo's beat, right? Using that way of thinking. So, that's my argument. Well, that's like 10% of my argument that Gennady Golovkin would be considered number one pound for pound if he beats Canelo. Okay, and like I said, I'm going to put my list out at the end of September. Right now, it's just up in the air, and I can't really make that argument right now. But okay, let me get into. I don't know if I should talk about Andre Ward or Kovalev, or not Kovalev, but Crawford. Let me talk about Crawford for a minute. A lot of guys, thinking I'm hating on Crawford. Here, this is my problem I have with Terence Crawford. Okay, now, people say to me, well, because in my mind, I think he's fighting B-level guys that are a lot smaller. You have to realize Terence Crawford rehydrates to an Earl Spence. Terence Crawford can rehydrate as big as a Keith Thurman. Okay, and he's in there with guys like Gamboa. You know, Diaz, guys like that's my problem with him. I guess maybe we could call it perhaps a weight bully. I don't know, but you look at the resume. Okay, Ndongo. Now, by the way, where did Ndongo win the two belts from? He got the WBA from Burns and the IBF from Troy Vanosky, right? And you look at Crawford. He had the WBC, WBO, but people thinks that, oh, well, he just beat the lineal champ within 2 rounds, whatever. And congratulations, he did a great job doing that, but you have to look at where Ndongo got those belts. A beaten down, mentally beaten Burns and a Troy Vanosky that got caught with a big shot, early on in the fight for the IBF and the IBO. Okay, so I don't want to call Ndongo a hype job, but he was lucky to have those belts. Okay, so you have to be fair. Like I just said, I don't think Loma should be at the top. He hasn't done enough. Now it has been quality over quantity, but he has not done enough. Simple. I mean, plain and simple. With 9-1, 7 KOs, Mariaga, Sosa, Walters, Martinez, Gary Russell, that's not enough in my mind. You need to do more. Okay, so I'm yet to put him up there. So I don't agree with him being at number one. But you know, maybe 3, maybe 4. But we'll get into that now. So back to Crawford though. Back to Crawford. Okay, people keep asking me, well, if he didn't, or if he's fighting these guys, well, who should he fight then? What would make you happy? What in your mind, what would a real opponent be for Crawford, right? And here's the problem: in his division, there aren't any real opponents. I mean, that's the problem right now with Terence Crawford. Okay, I mean, come on, at Diaz. I mean, yeah, Diaz was calling him out for like a year, and basically that was kind of a vengeance thing. He just said, "All right, you're going to call me out for a year. Let's get in there and do it." Okay, John Molina Jr. completely washed up. John Molina Jr. completely washed up. Victor Postol. Hell of a win, okay? Hell of a win, Victor Postol. I mean, I give him nothing. I mean, hey, my hat's off to you, right? Lundy, come on, people. Come on, people. Lundy, bobbing and weaving and bouncing and jumping around. Lundy, no, 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 no. I mean, you don't get nothing from me for that. Gene, no. Again, he was bigger. He was a welterweight, fighting a guy having trouble making 140. Okay, Delorum himself will tell you, I'm a B fighter, C fighter. I'm a gatekeeper at best. I'm a fringe contender. All right. Beltron, same thing. Tough dude. I like him. He's a friend of mine. But he will look. I'll interview the guy, and he will personally tell you, yes, I was a BC fighter in there with a top fighter. He will tell you that himself. He's told me that himself. Okay. When we've had little debates on Facebook, Gamboa, I mean, come on, he's half his size. Like I said, Terence Crawford comes in there, like a Keith Thurman, a full-fledged welterweight. So this is my problem, with Terence Crawford is, to me, he's a weight bully. He's in there with guys that, he's got, what, 7, 8, 10, who knows, 9 pounds on. I don't, I don't want, don't hold me to that, but he's the bigger man, okay? And in those lower weight division, not only do pounds count, but ounces count. When you're in the lower weight divisions like that, every pound is important, even down to the ounce. So when you got 3 and 4 and 7 pounds on another guy, that's a lot. Okay, that's a whole lot. I mean, that's a pound of muscle on each arm and each foot. That's a lot. It really, in boxing, it is a lot. And a lot of you guys out there that you don't realize that. You're like, oh, well, what, 7 or 8 pounds? What's the big deal? It is a huge deal. A huge deal, especially in the lower divisions. Now, in these bigger divisions, it's not so meaningful, but it is at 140. So hang on a second, guys. I gotta get a drink of water. Damn. Okay, but so that's basically my quick breakdown of Crawford. It's not who he didn't fight. It's there isn't anyone to fight. Therefore, if you're coming in the ring a welterweight, move up. Now, but I do give him credit. Now he is the undisputed light welterweight champion, and that's great. Hasn't been done since what was it, De La Hoya, B Hop? I can't remember who did it. Bernard Hopkins, I believe. So hey, and I like Terence Crawford. I do. He's a little bit dull. He's a little bit boring. For me, for my taste. But I like him. I do. I like him. But yeah, I mean, I really think if you look at the resume, you break it down, he's always been the bigger boxer, right? He just became undisputed by taking 2 belts off of a guy that you didn't even know. I guarantee you 90% of the people listening to this video, you had no idea who Julius Indongo was before the Crawford fight. I guarantee you that. So again, it's not who he didn't fight. It's who wasn't there to, that division's weak. It's a weak ass division, and I think Terence Crawford, I think he came into the division at the right time. Okay, now, but I will say, what if it was a stacked division? What if it was, just packed with competition, like the welterweight division? I think he would do great, and I think he would still have a chance to become the undisputed middleweight or light welterweight champ. I really do. But there's always that little question mark by his name in my mind. Okay, that is my problem with Terence Crawford in a nutshell. Now, we could break down each year, 13, 14. I could tell you, well, he should have did. What about Amir Khan? What about a Lucas Matisse? What about an Adrian Broner? What about a Danny Garcia? There's all these names out there that should have been, could have been, would have been, but you got promoters that won't work with each other. So when you take that and you take the fact that he is a welterweight fighting at light welterweight, and then you look at all, you look at all the other, gears and wheels and nuts and bolts and with the whole situation. I think things just worked out in his favor. But having said that, I also think if he had everything stacked against him, I think he could probably do it too, but we'll never know. I think we'll never know. So that's my deal with Terence Crawford. Okay. Andre Ward. Now I want to make it quick. I don't want to make it too long. Damn, I'm like walking and talking. Andre Ward. Okay, real quick. Why is he not pound for pound? Okay, and I'm gonna do it in under 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, and if you guys really want my breakdown, because I know the comment section is gonna be full of, what about this, what about that? Go back in my library. I've broken his entire resume down in great detail, probably better than anyone on YouTube has ever done. I went back to the back to his amateur career, back to the Olympics. I mean, I went all the way back. So don't tell me I don't know Andre Ward, because I know every little detail about his career. I'd say I probably know more than 90% of the boxing channels on YouTube. Even the people that actually, praise Andre Ward and really, hold him up on a pedestal, I know more than these people. So don't tell me I don't know Andre Ward, okay? But Andre Ward, one of my problems is this, okay? You can't call into work for 2.5 years, okay? Look, no, hear me out. You cannot call into work 2.5 years, right? Oh, hey, I'll be back in like 3 years, all right? And then, come back to a Paul Smith, a Barrera, an Alexander Brand, a Kovalev, right? And want the same credit. You know what I mean? Like, think about this. Like, let's say you leave your job for 2.5 years, right? Then you come back and go, oh, well, wait a minute. I want the same credit that I got back then. I want the same credit that I had back in 2013, 2012. You can't do that. You can't not box for 2.5 years, come back in 2015 against a Paul Smith and say, well, hey, I want my credit, the credit that I had back then. I want y'all to just kind of just let me pick up where I left off. You cannot do that, okay? But let's say you want to do that. Let's say, no, yeah, you can. It's debatable. I can do that, okay? Fine. We'll continue on as if you're allowed to do that in boxing, which is crazy to me. It's like if an NFL team takes off for 2.5 years and they come back in the same position when it's crazy, okay? But anyway, let's just say that that's your logic, right? Okay, Paul Smith, right? Complete mismatch. I mean, he was ranked like what was he ranked? Like 20, 22, 23, something like that. Can't remember. Okay, Barrera. Now, Barrera was a good acclamation fight, tune-up fight, whatever you want to call it. Alexander Brand. Okay, Alexander Brand. The New York State Athletic Commission tried to ban the fight. They said, why would an Andre Ward, okay, this alleged why would he want to get in there with an Alexander Brand? He's already had 2 tune-up fights. Why? And they said, well, because Kovalev is on the horizon. He doesn't want to get hurt. Well, again, you can't do that in boxing. Just because you have a big fight. I mean, look, Gennady Golovkin wanted to fight Billy Joe Saunders before Canelo, but he got basically benched, okay? So that's not, you can't do that either, right? Okay, so you go from a guy, Alexander Brand, like I said, the New York State Athletic Commission tried to have the fight banned, okay? They were like, we're not going to sanction this. This is crazy. It's a mismatch. No way. Then you get into a Kovalev fight, where, I mean, the original fight was a robbery. Okay, but let's say it wasn't a robbery. It was like needle ballpoint pin needle close in a worst case scenario, right? I mean, even Andre Ward to this day will tell you, I think I won by maybe 1 round. Okay, I think I beat him by a round, but he knows it was close as hell. Okay, then in a rematch, you have a highly, 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 highly debatable stoppage, an early stoppage. So when you look at all this, you got a guy, okay, I get it, Super Six back in the day, he's Mr. Big Shot back in the day with Edwin Rodriguez, Chad Dawson, with Carl Froch, with Arturo Abraham, beat these guys, I get it, okay, but you cannot take 2.5 years off and say, hey, remember what I did back then, guys? Hey, remember what I did back in 2013? Just kind of think of me that way while I'm fighting, Paul Smith, Barrera, Alexander Brand, guys that are a complete mismatch. I mean, that's the thing. To me, you cannot take 2.5 years off, have 3 garbage fights, and then basically a highly debatable robbery, whatever you want to call it, and then an early stoppage, highly controversial stoppage, and call yourself pound for pound #1. You just simply cannot do it. When you talk about resume dominance and skill set, it wasn't a dominating victory. Okay, in the skill set, Even Andre Ward said he gave himself like a B, that he didn't feel right, leading up to the Kovalev fight. And then the resume, well, you can't go back to 2013 and say, oh, look what I did back then. Back when, President Bush was president or what the hell. You can't do that. So that's my argument with Andre Ward and all these people out there that want to just like pump him up. Oh, yeah, he's pound for pound. Well, how? Tell me how. Because he beat Brand, because he beat Barrera, because he beat how? Yeah, you had two highly debatable fights with Kovalev. Like, you know what I mean? How? So, and then if you want to compare that to Gennady or not to Gennady Golovkin, we could do that. I mean, his record annihilates Andre Ward. Okay, because with Gennady Golovkin, you have quality and quantity. Okay, you got quality and he's got it all. Right, he's got it all. And again, one fight away from getting that WBO from Billy Joe Saunders. And if he beats Canelo, he will be pound for pound number one. I mean, it's not even debatable. It's just not even debatable. And anyone who wants to debate it, I probably just won't even talk to him. It's just like it's pointless to me. Because if you already have that preconceived notion in your head, I can't change your mind. So there's no point in me even talking. So I'm going to leave it at that, guys. What do you think? Leave your comment below.